different. You're from?
We're from
India.
India.
India. Okay. Right. So we'll start with the tour. First of all, just another warm welcome to you to Papa Villa and House Museum. By the way, this House Museum is the first of its kind in the world to focus on death and afterlife. So it's the first in the world. Right. My name is Willem. So I'm going to take you on this highlighted tour. It's about 1 hour. So I'll take you through each of the station and highlight the key points at each station. Then later you can explore on your own. Your tickets entitle you to unlimited entry for today. So at any time you can always come back. We close at 6 today. Okay? So I'll start off with a bit of history lesson. Have you ever wondered why this place is known as Papa Villa? Their name. So how the name come about? These two brothers, their parents were originally from Fujian province in China. Then they went to settle down in Rangoon, Burma. Today we know it as Yangon, Myanmar. So when they were in Burma, they established a family business. There's the Tiger Balm. Then, because of the success of the business, in 1926, the two brothers came to Singapore to expand the business. And when they were here, the name of the two brothers, he's known as Wen Hu, cultured tiger. Wen Bao, cultured leopard. When they were here, this younger brother missed his home in Rangoon. So the older brother is a very caring brother. So with the expansion of the family business, very well off. So when he happened to see a piece of land here in Pasir Panjang, I always tell visitors, it was overlooking the sea, not the container ports you see today. Right? Otherwise, why we want to build a villa here, isn't it? So at that time was the sea. So he decided to buy the land and build a villa here. So how did the name come about? It's from the brother's name. Paul is actually comes from Chinese. We say Hu, tiger, Bao, leopard, villa, Hu Bao Biesu. So hence Papa Villa. Right. Besides building the villa, there's this big plot of land where he has a garden. But instead of being a private garden, he turned it into a public park. And when he turned it a public park, he actually allowed the people, especially in those days, the migrant workers, they could come in here free. And at the same time, he also wants to inculcate good moral values among the visitors. Hence, you find that all around the park, you can see these Buddhist, the Buddha figures. Then you have those sculptures that depict Chinese legends and classic, like Journey to the West, 8 Immortals Cross the Sea, 八仙过海. So you see all this because he wants to impress upon them that you must live a life that is good moral values. Very often we are all taught, even when we're young, if you don't live a good life in terms of moral values, where will you end up when you passed away? Hell. Right? So what he did was he wanted to be very sure that the people understand what hell is like. Hence he built what we call the 10 courts of hell. 十殿阎罗. I know some of you will ask me, 18层地狱. I'll explain that later. But we know this as the 10 courts of hell. It is a Chinese Taoist version of hell. And in those days, that's why I asked them, if you're Singaporeans, you will remember when you're young, your parents, your grandparents will bring you to visit the 10 courts. But they don't tell you much about how it's related to the religion. More to scare you. They will tell you, if you tell lies, you get your tongue cut off, that this is what happens to you. And many of the visitors today who come here, they remember in their days as children, it was traumatic. But today, many of them want to visit this place again because now they feel that as adults, they will have a better view. So hopefully can overcome that traumatic experience. At the same time, they will bring their little ones, their children and grandchildren here because they also want them to go through that same traumatic experience. In fact, we can't really go and count, but there are at least close to more than 1,000 sculptures, making this the largest outdoor art gallery in Singapore, depicting the Chinese Asian views on art, literature, and religion. And when we built Hell's Museum, by the way, this Hell's Museum was started only last year, 28th of October. So we just commemorated the first anniversary. So when we built the Hell's Museum, we incorporated the 10 courts because we hope to give visitors a deeper understanding of death and afterlife and how religion influenced our views of death and the afterlife. So before we start the tour, you see I'm holding on to this, right? There's a special reason. You see a gong here? It's an antique gong, specially imported from Myanmar. So no significance, but just, to live up, to go through, because this has to do with the All Brothers, Myanmar. So since there are only a few of you, you're invited, each one to take your turn to just strike on the gong. Yeah. And how do you strike it? This time I make sure I always give right instruction. Previously I did not give instruction. So the person actually used this part to hit. And hence you see the part of it came off. So now must remember, you use only this part. This part, hit the center. Okay? Anyone like to start? Yeah. You can take a video. Video is going on. Nice sound, isn't it?
Yeah.
Map of the world. If you remember from the video, 300,000 years back, when Homo sapiens first inhabited the world. So, we always talk about Maslow's hierarchy of needs. So when men first started, they looked for shelter, food, but once they're all settled down, the next thing they start to ponder, to think about is what happens after someone passed away. They talk about their spiritual needs. And that's when they all started with their systems of belief. And in those days, there were more than 100 different forms of beliefs. It's just that over the years, and over here, we have displayed about 32 of the religions. Some of them still exist today. Some, we will not exactly say they've disappeared, because the civilization may have disappeared, seem to have disappeared, but there are always some traces of it. Say, for example, in America, you have the Aztecs, the Incas, Mexico, you have the Mayan civilization. Yeah. So, in fact, even when the early missionaries, when they went to Mexico, when they want to share Christianity with the people, to get them to accept, they actually brought in some of the Aztec, the Mayans practices also. So we still see traces of this. Then today's world population, essentially they follow the religion that are better known to us. Even then, we can separate, we can categorize them according to, through the lens of time. As you watch from the video, we have the religions that take the cyclical approach. For example, which is the oldest religion in the world? Hinduism, number 18 here. Hinduism, South Asia. So Hinduism takes the cyclical approach because they believe that the spirit goes through the cycle. And this is an endless cycle. Samsara. Birth, life, death. After death is rebirth. That's why we talk about reincarnation. Then, of course, they also believe that as long as you're within this samsara, there's some form of suffering. So that's why they would want to seek that the ultimate goal is to get out of samsara. And in Hinduism, if they are able to get that liberation, it's known as moksha. Then, because Hinduism is from South Asia, over the period of time, it influenced the other religions that come out from South Asia. Jainism, Sikhism, Buddhism. This altar is for Zhongyuan. That is, according to Taoism, the 7th lunar month is observed as the Hungry Ghost Festival. In Singapore and Malaysia, we actually observe the Hungry Ghost Festival throughout the whole of the 7th lunar month. But we have visitors who come in here from Taiwan, from China, from Hong Kong. They say it all depends on which part you come from. There's one Hong Kong visitor who said this, the incense paper, the Jaws papers, they are coated with silver or gold. And we also have this stack of hell's notes. So they believe that what we need in this mortal world, they also need it in the other world. So like currency, our currency will be with the photograph of the president, the king, the queen, but the hell's notes, you will have the Jade Emperor, his photo on it. And they also believe that they need things like what we need here. So they even burn as paper offering, paper models of LV bags, Chanel bags, iPhones, smartphones,
Oh.
laptops. And because of COVID, they also burned the paper mask, the paper syringe that is supposed to represent vaccine, ART self-test kits. And when you ask why do they need that, they say, well, they're coming out into this world, they should test negative before they join us. So, you know, that is, it brings us very close in that sense. But then the 15th day of the 7th lunar month is also a special festival for the Buddhists. They call it Ulaanbaatar Festival, Yilan Jie. And if you're interested in how Yilan Jie comes, so later you can explore more on your own.
Yeah.
We'll just take a look at this one here, the grave. Go to Yilan City, you see this, they look like this, right? And then the two stone lions. So it represents still a grave. And actually you'll notice that just now at Choa Chu Kang is all flat land. But according to German Sea, preferred, the grave should be on a slope. Practical reason, when the rains come, the water will flow down. Then the coffin will not be water soaked. Another reason is, if you are on the slope, then you can look down at the descendants below. So today they can't have it. So what they do is, they replace it with this, the tumulus, which we call the roof of the grave. So the coffin will be buried below. That's why you see the rectangle. Of course, over here no coffin. It's just to show you what it looks like. And if those who can read Chinese, all the information will be on this one. You can see here. See over here? All the information. Where she comes from, whether she's married. Now you know why we have this rock formation? Because according to Dao Jia, they talk about being in harmony with nature. So hence the rock, the bamboo. I'll just pause here very quickly. This one, very popular, well-known Buddhist saying, 苦海无涯，回头是岸, meaning that the sea of bitterness is boundless. However, if you repent, there's still hope for enlightenment. So this is actually used very often to counsel those bad guys that if you repent, turn away from sin, there's still hope for enlightenment. So that is the famous Buddhist saying. This is a tiger god. There are still temples built to honor the tiger god. People do pray to the tiger god for protection and safety. Hu ye, hu ye, ho ya lah. Alright, as before we enter the 10 courts of hell, introduce you to these two characters. In Chinese, 黑白无常. Right? 大爷婆, 二爷婆. But why we always want to bring this up to show you? This one here, this figure you see, this structure, is not 二爷婆. 二爷婆 doesn't look like this. It's just one of the hell workers. Because we don't know at that time when they built Haw Villa, did they have a statue of this, or it got lost along the way? By the name of Siddhigarbha. Chinese, we know him as Di Zhang Wang. Di Zhang Wang. Japan, they call him Jizo. The stone statue. That's Jizo. In fact, in Japan, they have this Goddess of Mercy temple, and outside a whole row of stone statues. 善有三报, 恶有二报, meaning that the good will get the reward. 恶有二报, those the bad will be punished. 不是不报, 时间未到. Sometimes we get very frustrated, isn't it? Why this person guilty of so many crimes but never seem to get punished? How come he get away? Then this one is so good but still did not get their reward. Yes. Because it's not that they will not be rewarded or punished, it's that the time is not right. Why we put it in front here is to say that now
Occident cost.
actually a few months back we had visitors from Malaysia. And when they see this, straight away they're very happy. They think it's nothing but punishment. It depends on who you believe. This one is the coolest hell in Singapore. If you remember the 1980s, this was actually a theme park, Dragon World. So they had all the waters filled up, and then you can only go through the 10 courts in the dragon boats. Remember the 1990s, it was so sad. So now we drain the water, So healthy lifestyle involved. Right. Now, we enter the first floor. So according to the plan, to look at all these house and the 18 levels of health. Alright, okay. For some Chinese practice, when somebody, let's say an elderly person passed away, and a young couple wants to get either they marry within 100 days or else they wait till 3 years later. Apparently, there was one, we had visited from India, Hindus. He said that Hindus they also have some kind of practice themes. Usually, if I have children, students, I always point out to them. One of the scenes for the sixth court is misuse of books, wastage of food.
Yeah, that's more important.
Right, now we come to the last court, the 10th court. It's very easy to remember the name of the 10th court. The 10th court, the judge. He is known as Tuan Luan. Tuan meaning to turn, Luan is some salah. So that's King Tuan Luan. So he is at this court. So you remember those who cross the Silver Bridge, Golden Bridge? This is where they get their reward. So it's a final judgment. Whether they move on to enlightenment or they become reborn as a celestial being or reborn as a human being but with a better life. Then those who go through the other course for punishment, this is the final judgment. They could be reborn as the lower level, which we classify as animals. Or they could be also reborn as hungry ghosts. Hungry ghosts, the punishment is that they stay here all the time and only get to go out once a year, the 7 lunar month. Or worse still, they could be reborn as hell resident. That means their sins are so great that their one round is not enough. They have to go another round to be punished further. But of course, there's another catch is that before they forgetfulness, erase all thoughts, all their memory of the past, so it's a clean slate. Yes, but then there are some people who say that I go to the internet, people claim that they still remember their past life. So how is that so? Visitors are very creative. They say probably the poor lady cannot. So instead we have the QR code. We invite visitors to share with us. So some visitors have shared. They say probably this is something about some similar to cop fighting, some kind of gambling. So this is not good. So we will not waste too much time on something bad. Let's look at positive. These two structures, they are the examples taken from 24孝. We call it the 24 exemplars of filial piety, a Chinese classic dated quite a number of years, maybe 1,000 years ago. Then you see this circular structure, they used to have swimming pool here and a changing room. But when they demolished the swimming pool, they chose not to demolish the pool. This is the temple.
That's it.